This is the Graceful Atheist Podcast. Welcome to the Graceful Atheist Podcast. My name is David, and I am trying to be the Graceful Atheist. I have to thank a number of reviewers on the Apple Podcast Store. We have a Russian name that Google Translate tells me means only lived. We have Keith. We have Jack, Mag, and Seb. We have Snabag. And then on podchaser.com, we have Ruby, former guest, and Small MT. Thank you to everyone for rating and reviewing the podcast. That really, really helps. You can do so too on the Apple Podcast Store. You can rate the podcast on Spotify, and you should subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening. We continue to have our Tuesday evening hangout after the podcast drops the day before in our community group on Facebook called Deconversion Anonymous. That is found at facebook.com/groups/deconversion. That group is moderated by our community manager, Arlene. Please join and become a part of the community. Special thanks to Mike T for editing today's show. On to today's show. My guest today is Bob Barnes. Bob is one of the BAHA Con organizers, that is the Blue Water Atheists, Humanists, and Agnostics, in Sarnia, Ontario, Canada, which is just across the river from Port Huron, Michigan, for those of us in the United States. Let's be honest, this episode is very much an advertisement for the BAHA Con, and I'm here for that. If you aren't, that's okay, but Bob Barnes is a character, and I loved my conversation with him. The conference is going to have a number of pretty big-name atheist speakers, and it happens August 26th through the 28th of 2022, again in Sarnia, Ontario, Canada. The website is bluewateraha.com, and of course that will be in the show notes, as well as a YouTube video of Seth Andrews promoting the conference. Here is my conversation with Bob Barnes. Bob Barnes, welcome to the Graceful Atheist Podcast.
Thanks for the invite, David.
So, Bob, you are doing the BAHA Conference, which is the Blue Water Atheists, Humanists, and Agnostics Conference in August of 2022. But I'd like to hear just a quick introduction about you, why we're interested in doing the conference, and things like that.
Okay, I've been a lifelong atheist, and I never gave religion much thought till I was maybe my mid-50s. And I said to myself, there must be something to this because everybody believes it. And I started to do a deep dive. I read so much stuff, and as I was doing it, I took notes. And I ended up writing an essay. It's about 17, 18 pages long on my thoughts on religion. And back in those days, I was really serious because I had a friend of mine who's very religious. They belong to the Christadelphians. I don't know if you know that group.
Yeah, not familiar.
And her dad was really into the Bible. He really knew the Bible. So I asked her, can I go around and talk to your dad? Because I'm going back 30 years ago now. I really wanted to get the truth and stuff like that. And after I left there, I was just more against it because all he could tell me was, Bob, God knows how many hairs you have in your head. And Bob, he knows when a sparrow hits the ground and all this kind of stuff like that. And so I could not get into religion. My intelligence wouldn't let me go there. But I think I'm a fairly decent person. And this friend I just talked to, she's always saying to me, Bob, you will make a good Christian someday. As if Christians have the rights to what's right and what's wrong. And it bothers me to no end when you read in the Bible or read in the dictionary the word godless and what it says. It says evil, wicked, and sinful. And I told my religious friend, do you think I'm any of those things? And, but I go by, I have two. I don't have 10 commandments, David. I have 2. And my whole life is around that. The first thing I look at, is it fair? Is what I'm doing, is it fair to everybody? And the second thing is the harm. Is there any harm in what I'm doing? And I lead my life with those two commandments. And if there's no harm and it's fair, then it's okay. Because, to put things like commandments that you don't lie, that doesn't make sense because sometimes lying is the absolute best thing you can do in life.
Yeah.
I can give you all kinds of examples of that, but the story I think of is when the lady comes pounding on your door and she's all upset and all beat up and that because her husband had beat her up. So you bring her in, you give her a cup of coffee, and you settle her down. Then all of a sudden, there's a pounding at the door, and it's her husband. You go to the door, and he's yelling, "Where's my wife? My wife in here?" The best thing you can do is lie. Say,
Yeah.
"No, she's not here." So I think that sometimes, like, and the other thing, the first four commandments in the Bible are just worshiping somebody and you know, don't call them a bad name and that kind of stuff. So anyway, people ask me why I go to conferences and stuff. And my stock answer always is, I got to get around sane people for a while.
Yeah.
You're dealing with so much stupidity that it's nice to get around 400 or 500 people that think like you and are rational kind of people. So that's why I go. And when people ask me, why are you so active, and stuff like that. And there's three things that bothers me. And it's what religion is doing to our government, what religion to our health care, and what religion is doing to our education system.
Hmm.
And I have grandkids, and I'm going to be leaving this old earth pretty soon. And I hate to think of what I'm leaving behind for my grandkids. So
Yeah.
I that's why I'm an activist, and we have a group in Sarnia. If you want me to tell you a little bit about that,
Sure.
we call ourselves BAHA. It stands for Blue Water Atheists, Humanists, and Agnostics. We've been a fairly active group for a small group. We've taken on big challenges. We had a speaker come to town just before the COVID. We promoted it well, and the speaker came with 7 boxes of books to sell, and he sold them all. He had
Mm.
to send me a couple more cases after. We held this at a local library auditorium, which holds 400 people. We filled it.
Wow.
We filled that in that one speaking. So that this conference I'll tell you about in a minute. We have no doubt we're going to sell it out. But what our aims are as a group, besides our functions like skeptic breakfasts and solace dinners and all these kind of events, our goal is to hold an annual conference and then two more speakers, one in the fall and one in the spring.
Okay.
And one of the main reasons why we're holding this conference is we we want to improve the image of atheism and free thinkers in the community because all our money is going to charity.
Hmm.
We've selected two charities. One is the Alzheimer's Society, and the other is our local hospice. And that's where the profits from this conference are going to go. And the reason, we're holding this thing is to, raise the money, but also increase our membership because it just bothers me and how many people I know, good friends, and that they're as atheists as I am, but they're so scared to mention stuff like that those kind of people,
Yeah.
and that's not fair. And I'm thinking with our group, if we can increase members to feel comfortable being around us, and what we're doing and stuff like that. Uh, but it just bothers me to no end that you know people. I have this friend. If I'm over there for supper, she'll apologize to me, Bob. I'm sorry, but we're going to say grace, as if that was going to affect me or insult me. I could
Right.
care less. You can say all the grace you want, say all the prayers you want. You do that like. When people put signs on their lawn about keeping Christ and Christmas and all that, go ahead, go for it. I could care less. I'm not against people. The only people that I would like to see take a deeper dive is my relatives. Like I have 5 grandkids. They're all atheists, every one of them.
Okay.
And the oldest one is my granddaughter. I was giving her a ride home one time, and I happened to mention about her being a Catholic, kind of stuff. She yelled at me in the biggest voice. She said, "Papa, you know I'm not a Catholic." You know, her mother's very religious, and her mother knew that. And and I just hate the world where everybody has to not be truthful. And another example is that my good friend that belongs to the Christadelphians, her sister's husband is just as atheist as I am. Her brother is just as atheist as I am, and one of her sons is. But none of them can say anything. They've got to keep quiet, and I'm not going to put them. I'm not going to put them out. But I hate when people can't be honest. Like to me, uh, I don't mind who knows because I'm proud of it. I'm absolutely proud to be an atheist.
A few things that you've said there that I think are really important. One is that atheist activists like yourself, it's not that you're trying to change people's minds. It's that we want just pluralism. We just want to be able to have people who don't have a faith, who don't believe, to be able to say so without there being societal consequences for that person. And so this is what secularism is, or pluralism is, just the ability to have whatever belief or lack of belief that you have and not have to face stigma because of that.
Well, like I mentioned before about the things that bother me about religion, and look what's happening in the United States right now with women's rights. I
Mhm.
mean, who has the right to tell a woman what she can do with her body?
Yeah.
You know, it's just ridiculous the way that they've taken over. The stuff and look at your Supreme Court. There's 6 Catholics on it. How kind of a fair ruling you're going to get there? And even these the trials I've been watching on the January 6th thing. When I talk about the senators and how they prayed for this and all that kind of stuff, it shouldn't be in their thoughts. It should be all reason and stuff like that.
I want to ask a couple more questions about your personal story. And first of all, when you were growing up as a kid, was your family religious at all? And then when did you decide for yourself that this wasn't for you?
Well, go back to my father, for instance. The only time I ever remember him being in a church would be at a wedding or something like that. I don't. And my mother started to go to church a bit in her old age, but she was never very religious. I remember vaguely going with some neighborhood kids to a Sunday school thing a little bit when I was younger, but when I got older, it just never, none of it ever made sense to me. And but it really never hit home until I really did the deep dive.
Hmm.
Really went and really investigated. And that's the problem. Like with people that go to church, nobody reads the Bible. Nobody knows what's in there. Uh, it's just something they've been indoctrinated from the young and just can't get rid of. It's
Yeah.
anybody. I swear, David. I told you a minute ago. I'll tell you about my essay I wrote,
Yeah.
and this is my buddy did uh, a a redo on it to make it flow better and stuff like that. But I thought back when I was in my mid 50s, there has to be something to it. I'm maybe repeating myself a little bit, but I did this essay and I called it "My Thoughts on Religion"
Hmm.
because I went into every possible thing I could, and I really researched it. But so now I know the Bible better than anybody. I listen to all your podcasts plus other ones, and you get a lot of knowledge out of that. And so if I was to sit down across the table from a religious person, they wouldn't want to do that because I know the Bible way better than they do, and I got a lot more ammunition than they got. And the group that I belong to, they're so intelligent. The people, like quite a few of them are computer engineering, that kind of stuff. But I remember our group went to see Richard Dawkins over in Lansing, Michigan a few years ago, and there was a street preacher on a soapbox with a megaphone, as everybody was kind of going in. Well, this friend of mine, he walked up to the guy and he says to him, "Tell me, what's your best incest story in the Bible?" And the
Yeah.
guy just he didn't know how to answer it. But like we have several people in our group that know it so well. And I'll give you just a quick update on one of the functions we did back before the COVID. We held what we called a theology discussion, and I invited three people from a church, a local church, and I invited three people on my group to be on the other side, and we had topics done, and I was kind of the moderator to make sure because we didn't know how it was going to. It went over so well, and the questions were and the comment from the preachers after was, he said what they got of it. He said we agree with a heck of a lot more than we disagree. They like the religious people can talk to an atheist and come up with you know that they all think a lot. They're honest, and all that stuff. And so I think we need to have more dialogue, between religious people, and that's one of the things that one of my next projects, I'm going to try to get another one of these discussions going so people feel comfortable.
Definitely. Part of what we're trying to do here as well is the people in between. I definitely am an atheist, humanist. I identify that way, but like I also want to be able to talk to people who are still a person of faith but have questions, and
Yes.
that's challenging, right? You have to be graceful. You have to be open to listening and not having that sense of needing to correct them as you're talking to them. One other aspect of your story that I want to get to, Bob, is that you also have some previous experience doing conferences. Do you want to tell us about that? And then maybe what led to the decision to wanting to do the BAHA Con?
Well, my work or business experience, I was in the roller skating business. I
Okay.
had three rollers, one in Sarnia and two in Toronto. And if you have that many people, you got to know how to control and stuff like that. I built the first KOA campground in Canada. I backed some friends of mine who came back from Australia in a seal business, like making mechanical seals and stuff like that. But the latest project I did was I took my KOA campground and developed into a resort, like a Florida type resort with a big clubhouse, indoor pool, tennis courts, and shuffleboard, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that, and I sold it a few years ago. And about 2 years after I sold it, the guy I sold to, I had him build me a house in there, and that's where I still live. I love living in where we're at. But as far as we started our group, it's been going for about 12 years. It started out with about four of us just going for a coffee at the coffee shop kind of thing. And, and then it went on. We've gone through a stage. At one time, we were called Bash, and we didn't like that name. And but we've we have a good group of people. I just can't tell you enough because when I look on these meetup sites and people have 900 members, something like that, and they'll have like three or four coming. Our skeptic breakfast we average, well, before COVID, we were nipping about 30, but now we're nipping around 20. It's going to take a while to build, but we get good turnouts and stuff like that. Uh, so it started like that, and then we went on the meetup and we built our group up. And when we did this conference that we had at the library where we filled it, we just got thinking bigger.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to so many conferences. I go to just about all the FFRF ones,
Yeah.
and I've been out with the Gateway out in St. Louis. I've been all American Atheism. I've been to a lot of their conferences. So I kept thinking, well, why can't we do that? Let's put a good one on. And we, first of all, we had to go through the expense of getting to be a nonprofit because we want to make sure we're nonprofit and stuff like that. So we went through a lot of work, had it ready to go in 220, and the COVID came, we had to cancel. So now we started again. And to me, I go to a lot of conferences, and David, you look at the lineups they have. Nobody, I'll blow my own horn. Nobody has a lineup like we've got. And when I first put feelers out on this conference, the the two big feedbacks I kept getting was what a lineup! Wow, they couldn't get over the lineup. They all comment, and the other thing they comment on is how reasonable it is. You know, when when you like, for instance, the American Atheists go there, you want to go to VIP dinner, it's 400 or $250 US. Our our dinner is $100, and the if they buy the early bird, and our cost on that dinner is over $50. Like I told you earlier, we're going to have excellent meals. I want to make sure people walk away and say, "Man, is that a good? We got a nice meal, got value for our money."
Yeah.
So uh, we've tried to keep the prices down low, but at the same time, we haven't skimped on anything. Uh, and I should maybe put a little plug in, because the support we've got from sponsors is unreal. The American Atheists are our sponsor. The FFRF is a sponsor. The Atheist Alliance is a sponsor. The CFI in USA is a sponsor.
Hmm.
The CFI in Canada is a sponsor. And the Canadian Humanist Association is a sponsor. So with that much sponsorship, and they made it so easy for us to go ahead. We had the finances and all that stuff. Uh, so I just can't thank them enough. But when it comes to, like I say, I've been to a lot of conferences. When people see that, even the name badge we're going to have, it's going to show up. It's just different.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful program we're going to give out when people come in, which I never see at conferences. And I told you, my friend Jim, him and his wife are putting this together. I just got the protocol or prototype of it the other day. It's just gorgeous. I couldn't believe how good it is. We have another guy on our board who makes videos for a living,
Hmm.
and he put together. I don't know if you've seen our video at all.
I did. Yes, it's on YouTube, and we'll have links in the show notes for that as well. So yeah.
Yeah, the fellow that on our board that put that together, he had a lot of help from Seth Andrews. I can't thank him enough either, because we had a FaceTime with him, and he gave our guy a lot of advice, and they went back and forth. And Seth has agreed to do the voiceover for us. So we've had a lot of support from like people like Seth. But the other one is other operators. I'm not shy about asking for help and advice and stuff like that. Joycelyn from the Free Flow conference in Florida was so helpful to me. The guy that put the ones on Canada called Imagine No Religion Bill, he was the fellow that put the Gateway to Reason rallies. I talk to him all the time. He gives me his advice, and it's so nice that David Westbrook. Uh, I can talk to him and get his advice. So it's nice how the community stick together,
Yeah.
and help each other. On our website, we have a sponsored page, and we have the sponsors I told you about, but we've also included other ones on a complimentary basis, which I feel are really great organizations for our movement,
Hmm.
and like recovering from religion,
Yeah.
the Camp Quest, the one about Beyond Belief, the investment. Anyway, we've given all them free and given them a lot of exposure, because that's what's the movement's all about, eh?
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway, you wanted to talk about the speakers,
Yes, please. Yeah.
and I got to tell you, our speakers have been very generous with their time, and we're paying all their expenses. We're paying very little out on fees and honorariums. You know, if it come, they know it's for charity, so they're helping out too.
Yeah.
But we have Seth Andrews is coming.
Okay.
Yeah, we have Dan Barker and Annie Laurie Gaylor from the Freedom from Religion. And on our VIP dinner, Dan is going to play the piano and sing songs and all
Oh,
that. So we're
cool.
going to have a good time on that.
Yeah.
And then we have Hammett Mehta
Uh-huh.
that is coming. We have Mark Gura from the Atheist Alliance coming.
Okay.
We have Dave Warnock from Dying Out Loud is coming,
Yeah.
and Greta Vosper is coming.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know who she is and
Yeah.
stuff
Yes, I
like that.
do. Yes. I'm familiar with her from Ryan Bell's Life After God. He talked with her
Yeah,
several
yeah,
times, and she was a part of that project as well.
yeah. And then we have Bob Ripley. Bob Ripley, maybe you wouldn't know about him in this area. He's well known.
Okay.
When he retired from the largest Protestant uh, church in Canada, and it wasn't till after he got out of the church. He'd been writing a religious write up in the local paper for probably 25 years, but then he came out as an atheist. And he's the fellow we had at our meeting at the library,
Yeah.
and we just packed it. And he has a good story to tell. He's 45 years as a minister, and now he's on the other side. And
Yeah.
all our speakers have got great stories to tell.
Yeah.
And as far as that goes, I've already got two or three lined up for next year's.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that
This is
sounds great.
what I say.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Let's make sure that we say when it is and where it is. So how can people find out? How
Okay.
can they register?
Yeah, we're in Sarnia, Ontario, which is right across the river, linked with Port Huron, Michigan. When they come from the states, when they come down the bottom of the bridge, they'll see the conference. It's right in the first exit off the bridge. It's going to be so easy to find. And the conference site it's called the Sunbridge right now, but they're in the process of renaming it and branding it to the Four Point Sheraton.
Okay.
The the hotel has all the rooms are all been redone. Everything's brand new in them. 55-inch flat screen TVs, fridge, microwaves, and brand new beds. Everything's brand new. So when they come, they're going to be coming into a brand new rooms when they're going to stay. The ballroom where the conference is going to be held is also brand new. Everything was taken out of the flooring, the ceiling, everything. And they're putting in a lot of new audio video. They're putting in 5 10-foot screens there's two on one wall and one on each other walls. And the sound system's brand new. We had an estimate from the AV to put in our screens and bring our speakers in and all that stuff. And there's a lot of labor involved in that on setup and tear down on stuff.
Yeah.
But we're fortunate now they've got it's all brand new. So we're not going to have to put out all the money for a lot of this AV because it's in the hotel. The unfortunate thing, the hotel, they don't know whether they'll have the pool, the exercise room, and even the cafeteria or the restaurant open.
Okay.
They're if you went up there, I went by there last night late at night, and they're in there working. They're going like crazy.
Yeah.
But so when people come, everything's brand new, but they may have some inconvenience. But to me, not having a pool or exercise room isn't that big a deal because our program is so tight. There isn't going to be much room to do that stuff anyway. So,
And then it is August 26th to the 28th.
yes, August 26th to 28th. It starts out on the Friday night with our VIP dinner. And like I said earlier, it's a heck of a meal. We're going to have a lot of fun. The next day, we have 8 speakers. And the thing that when I go to conferences sometimes, they people get up and they almost tell a sermon when they go ask a question and stuff, and it really uh, takes away from everything. So what we're doing is different, David. We have a committee of 3 people, very bright guys in our group,
Hmm.
and when people come in the conference, there'll be uh, forms on the table with pens. They can write their questions down, and then they turn them into our committee, and our committee will decide, and they'll get up and read it off because they're good speakers, stuff like that. And so that way you stop all these long sermons getting nowhere,
Yeah.
and you stop the crazy one. But we're trying to make sure, and I know a lot of conferences I've been to have like little short, a whole bunch of speakers, like 20-minute things,
Yeah.
and I like it better when you have someone like a Seth Andrews that's got a whole hour,
Right.
so he can take the last 20 minutes of it and have question and answer, because the question and answer period is basically the people's favorite part of a program. They love to ask the questions and stuff like that. So that's why we want to streamline it so we don't get bogged down. But every one of our speakers is going to have a good portion to have a question and answer after.
Excellent.
And then on Saturday at 6 o'clock, it's over. But then we have a space of 2 hours where people can go have dinner on their own if they want to try the restaurants around, or we have the hotels putting on a dinner
Hmm.
so they can stay there for that. And then at 8 o'clock, we have what we're calling an after party. I've been to a lot of conferences that have these after parties, and they can be kind of dull or boring and stuff like that. We want to make our after party a good time.
Yeah.
We have a speaker it's a young gal that plays guitar and sings beautiful songs. She'll be doing some entertaining, but basically after parties are mostly for people just from different parts of the country to be able to get together and yap and socialize and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that goes till midnight, and then the next morning we have Mark Guerrera. He's given a talk on the 4 pillars of atheism
Okay.
from 9 o'clock till 10, and then our boat cruise starts after that. It's from 10:30 till 1:30,
All right.
and we're definitely going to sell that out. The boat has a capacity of 192, but it gets crowded when you get up around 150, 160. So we're limiting it to 160,
Okay.
so it's comfortable. So and the other thing, most of the speakers are coming on this boat tour, so people have a great opportunity to mingle and ask them and get a face to face talk to these people. So the boat. Like I said, we're going to limit to 160, and we're getting to the point where we know we're going to have to disappoint some people. So if
Yeah.
people they want to go on the boat tour and get the total package, they should be registering right now, because I tried to get a second tour, is what I am, but the boat company they're booked right after, and so it wasn't available. If I could have got two, I'd have done two, because I'm pretty sure we'd fill it twice, But we have to go with what we got.
And then for the U.S. attendees, I understand that Sarnia is very close to Port Huron, Michigan. So literally, you could just drive from Michigan to Ontario.
And the exchange rate, like if Americans, some of them don't realize how great a deal that is. Like most people would go to a conference, are going to pay about $150 US to go to a hotel. Our hotel, they gave us a special rate. Like I say, it's all brand new, beautiful hotel. It's going to be $109 plus the taxes Canadian, but that translates down about $85 for US.
Okay.
You're never going to get to a conference of this quality, or a room of that quality, for that kind of money. But the exchange rate, even on the tickets, like to buy a total experience one, that's about $330 now, because we're over the early bird price, and that translates to about 230 American.
Yeah.
There's a huge saving for Americans, and when they register, it's in Canadian dollars, but then if someone turns an American, it goes right down to whatever it is, 235, and that's all they pay.
Okay.
So really a lot of value there.
Great.
And the other thing, I tell you a little about the hotel. It's within walking distance of a casino. So people like casino they got there. We're about 2 miles from the beautiful white sandy beaches. The river, if you saw in any pictures on our video, there's walkways right along the river, and people can, if they want to just go for a walk along the river, and the great big Lakers, 1,000-foot boats go by, almost touch them. They're that close, to go by.
Yeah.
So there's, and like I say, we've got lots of great restaurants and other things in our area. So we got the hotel to agree to allow people that special rate if they come early or stay late. So we've been encouraging people to come early or stay late and enjoy the area.
Yeah.
The hotel rate is a decent hotel rate.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you wanted to talk about?
Well, nothing other than just our conference is called BAHA Con. You can go online and just www.bahacon.com. You can see everything there. It's all the information is there. And like mark your calendar, August the 26th to 28th. And I would, I don't want to sound like it's hard sell because it's not. We are going to sell out, and if there's going to be some people that are going to be disappointed. Our original plan was to hold 700 people, but we decided because when they have the Friday night VIP dinner, they have to tear all the tables down and then put theater style stuff, and it's not fun to be in a theater style.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave the tables up so people can set their drinks, their purses, and all the stuff on the table. And it's just a much more comfortable venue, but we had to cut back. And so our original plans were to fill 700, but we're going to fill 420.
All right.
I don't know what else to tell you other than the group and our board. I'm so fortunate to have people working with me and our group. I've asked for volunteers to do the registry. I just got all kinds of people wanting to help. So I can tell people in all kinds of confidence, this is going to be the best conference they're ever going to come to.
Excellent. Thank you, Bob. So the conference is BAHA Con 2022. It's August 26th to the 28th in Sarnia, Ontario, Canada. Bob Barnes, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, David, for the invite. We really appreciate it.
Final thoughts on the episode. So again, this was really an advertisement for BAHA Con, but I enjoyed my conversation with Bob so much. He is old school atheist and has experienced what it is like to be an atheist long before it was trendy to be so. And I really appreciate his desire to pull people together for conferences. So he had done work in a number of other areas prior to this, doing conferences, and this is just his thing. You can feel that about him. He is all about community. And he is a natural-born salesman. There is no stopping him. Bob is unstoppable. But for any of you who are interested, again, that is BAHA Con in Sarnia, Ontario, Canada, right across the river from Port Huron, Michigan, August 26th to the 28th of 2022. And the website is bluewateraha.com. And we'll have links in the show notes for that, as well as the promo video if you are interested in going to the conference. And who knows, maybe in 2023, the next year's conference, Bob might invite me to come and speak. Thank you, Bob, for being on the podcast and for sharing with us about BAHA Con and sharing some of your story with us. The Secular Grace Thought of the Week is about pluralism and secularism. Secularism can be such a scary word, but a lot of what Bob's story brought up is the need for secularism. Someone like Bob has experienced the prejudice of being an atheist. There is a downside to publicly coming out as an atheist, depending on where you're at, where you work, where you go to school, which part of the country or countries you live in. And what Bob said so eloquently is that all we want is the ability to have faith or no faith, to be able to express that, in one way or another and not have negative consequences for that. And that ultimately is secularism. When I began this podcast, it was in the midst of a lot of political turmoil for us in the United States. And one of the themes that kept coming up is Christian nationalism. And it's one that I did not focus on. Many other podcasts focus on that almost exclusively. I have not always wanted to be political, but I can't help it sometimes. And so here I just want to say the separation of church is good for the church and it is good for the state. And anytime that a religious organization or a religious ideology or a religious sect begins to gain political power, historically, that has been very, very bad. And we find ourselves in a moment in which that is absolutely the case, in which Christian nationalists have gained great political power and are now enacting their vision of what the United States ought to be, regardless of what the popular will of the people is. For any believers who are listening to the show, and first of all, you're amazing for sticking through this particular episode and all the way to here, keep in mind that even if a Christian gained political power, it may not be your particular brand of Christianity. There are many believers who are progressive Christians who grieve the current Christian nationalism. You can never control how much power that particular sect might wield and what they might do with it. All of this to say, vote. I know that's saccharine sweet, and there's been lots of backlash about that, but that ultimately is the power of the people to remove leadership that does not believe that everyone has rights, that everyone has a voice, that everyone is important to listen to. Coming up next week, we have another interview by Arlene with an Instagram person who goes by the name B. I think that's going to be really, really interesting, so look forward to that. I will also be interviewing Jenny McGrath, who is a counselor, and she also has a course called Embodied Sexuality to help people who have grown up in the purity culture begin to explore and understand their own sexuality. So be looking for that as well. Until then, my name is David, and I am trying to be the graceful atheist. Join me and be graceful human beings. Time for the footnotes. The beat is called Waves from Mackay Beats. Links will be in the show notes. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can promote it on your social media. You can subscribe to it in your favorite podcast application, and you can rate and review it on podchaser.com. You can also support the podcast by clicking on the affiliate links for books on gracefulatheist.com. If you have podcast production experience and you would like to participate with the podcast, please get in touch with me. Have you gone through a faith transition and do you need to tell your story? Reach out. If you are a creator or work in the deconstruction, deconversion, or secular humanism spaces and would like to be on the podcast, just ask. If you'd like to financially support the podcast, there's links in the show notes. To find me, you can Google Graceful Atheist. You can Google deconversion. You can Google secular grace. You can send me an email, gracefulatheist@gmail.com, or you can check out the website, gracefulatheist.com. My name is David, and I am trying to be the graceful atheist. Join me and be graceful human beings. This has been the Graceful Atheist Podcast.